This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
It's an overreach that will let a Washington bureaucracy and not the American people decide the future of the online world.
That's the man President Trump appointed to head the FCC. He is a former attorney for Verizon and says internet service providers should have free rein to enforce net neutrality on themselves. But would they actually do it without net neutrality? Could you end up paying service providers more to access specific websites or services? We'll explain what it means for you and why it could change the internet as we know it forever. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the debate over net neutrality coming up, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight with the issue of climate change. Sources close to President Trump says he is expected to pull the U.S. from a global climate agreement, the Paris Climate Accord. It's a huge issue here on the Suncoast as warmer temperatures are causing the sea level to rise. Governor Rick Scott refuses to acknowledge climate change, and now with the federal government also expressing skepticism, local governments are taking it upon themselves to act. Both Sarasota County and city officials have policies to deal with sea level rise. The county has received $4 million in sustainability funding since 2002 and is working on several projects to prepare for rising waters. While the city has received federal funds and grants in the past, most money is collected locally.
I think the president is showing his disconnect and, missing an opportunity to continue to be a leader in this movement, because what's happening in our cities, what's happening on Main Street, it's a river that's moving.
Sarasota County says you could help mitigate climate change in your own life. You could find a link to a list of ways to help by visiting our website at mysuncoast.com. Sarasota native and former NFL star Tim Johnson is helping lead a massive initiative in Central Florida to help the homeless, and it's got local leaders paying attention. Today, Johnson spoke to a Suncoast audience about an annual event in Orlando offering dozens of services to thousands of homeless individuals, including food, showers, haircuts, medical screenings, legal information, and a job fair. While hundreds of organizations participate, others are skeptical, including the United Way, which says funds would be better put towards housing. A new drug rehabilitation facility could soon take over the Nokomis Inn and Suites property. A private developer is considering selling the property to a health services group to turn it into a rehab center, but nearby residents aren't too keen on the idea. The Nokomis Area Civic Association has come out strongly against the idea. One reason, a neighboring academy for early education.
We want everyone to have the proper health and medical attention, but not in a commercial corridor.
We reached out to the developer but didn't hear back. At this point, Sarasota County has not received any formal plans for the rehab facility. Manatee County's Chamber of Commerce has a new president. The chamber announcing today that Jackie Dazilski will take over the role. She began serving as interim president in February after Barb Bartz passed away. She says she is looking forward to continuing his legacy. Dazilski has been with the Manatee Chamber since 1996. Today is the final day of school for students in Manatee County, and according to Pew Research, the number of teens who work summer jobs has gone down since the 1990s. Now organizations are pushing to get kids involved in programs to keep them busy during their time off. The Bradenton YMCA says limiting idle time helps kids stay out of trouble.
Youth development is what we do here at the Y. So whether we're out on the street preaching to kids or just bringing them in here to play sports, we really are pushing just kids doing the right thing and growing up and getting to where they want to be and need to be.
Arts Center Manatee will also conduct summer arts classes starting on June 5th. Teens and young adults who also use the Also Youth Center now have a new space. The center held a ribbon-cutting ceremony today celebrating the renovation and the reopening of Sarasota's only LGBTQ youth center. The center now has a new private soundproof meeting room, replacing the large space groups had to share. Sarasota County is making sure a Suncoast beach is ready for summer crowds. Today, county officials are celebrating the completion of renovations at Turtle Beach on Siesta Key. The new additions include redesigned playgrounds, kayak landings, a parking lot with 35 additional spaces, covered picnic areas, and new sidewalks. The project came in under budget at $640,000. And a reminder, hurricane season begins tomorrow, and we'll be kicking it off with our hour-long Surviving a Hurricane special from 7 to 8 o'clock. Our weather team will go over evacuation routes, shelter information, what you need in your supply kit, and much more. You can also call in with our storm-related questions. That's tomorrow at June 1st at 7 p.m. And Bob, we are looking forward to this important special.
Yeah, it's a really nice one. If you can't make it, DVR it. Obviously, will also be available on our mysuncoast.com, I should say, as well as other venues across our digital field. So keep that in mind if you can't make it tomorrow. But it should be a very informative program. And if you have questions, write them down and call up the number. You'll see it tomorrow, advertised during the 6 o'clock newscast, too. And really a lot of experts on the phone lines answering your questions and concerns about this upcoming hurricane season and what you need to do to prepare yourself and your family. Now, a radar picture showing some rainfall. The summer pattern's starting to take shape already. We're starting to see more and more storms developing now, especially in inland counties, and some of it produces some locally heavy rainfall. Yesterday, we had 3 inches in Hardee and DeSoto counties, at least places there, and today, about 2 inches of rainfall. Now that shower activity is starting to break out from the outflow boundaries from the earlier storms that were around, producing that heavy rainfall, but not much near the coastline. We saw a little bit down near Port Charlotte just now, but not much going on. The heat index still very high at this hour. It's 93. Our actual temperature at 86 degrees. We have some clouds, some debris clouds left over from those storms' interior places. And as far as temperatures go, all pretty much into the mid-80s near the coast, and it's cooled now. Rain-cooled air in Wauchula and Arcadia. That's the benefits of those afternoon showers and storms. It cools things down. After highs today, we're in the low 90s. More storms are in the offing, too. We have really high rain chances over the next 7 days.
And that should lower the chances for wildfires. So that is good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, do you feel like you're getting squeezed for cash by your internet service provider? Well, it could get worse if the FCC ends net neutrality. Find out how it could impact businesses and consumers across the nation when we return.
Watch ABC7's Osprey Cam on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Opera TV. And get an exclusive bird's eye view of Sarah and Soda, our own resident Osprey couple. With ABC7's state-of-the-art high-definition Osprey Cam with night vision, you'll get an up-close and personal look at all the Osprey action live 24/7. And you might just be the first to spot an egg. Search ABC7 on your streaming device. Download the free ABC7 channel app and click on Osprey Cam.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom. Over the years, we've helped thousands of families find senior care, and today's senior living communities have never been better. With amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
Call A Place for Mom right now to get our free ebook on financing senior care, as well as a free referral for senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-290-0352. That's 1-800-290-0352.
For years, I told everyone my Craftmatic adjustable bed was the greatest until I got the new Craftmatic Legacy. It has an adjustable pillow feature that's awesome. You're gonna want one too when you see how little they cost.
If you've ever had a bad night's sleep, call and price the new Craftmatic Legacy. It has so much more than other adjustables and still costs up to 50% less. Featuring a rising adjustable pillow rest, bedside power plugs, underbed night lights, and more. Available in all mattress types with optional heat and soothing massage for as much as half the price of Tempur-Pedic, Sleep Number, and other adjustables. Enjoy temporary relief of low back pain, nighttime heartburn, mild arthritis. Adjust the rising pillow feature to help align your head, neck, and shoulders. See for yourself with our 30-day in-home trial. So call and price one today for less, up to 50% less.
You get so much more and it still costs less. You gotta see how little they cost.
Call 1-800-237-0214. That's 1-800-237-0214. Call 1-800-237-0214. Call now.
ABC7, your official Florida lottery station for the Suncoast.
I say net neutrality and you say what? Literally what? You're probably saying, what is net neutrality? As Kate Flexter explains, yes, it deals with the internet, but it also deals with the haves and have-nots, the rich and the poor, and yes, some would argue social justice. Kate.
Thanks, Alan. This is something that affects anyone who uses the internet, whether it's for business or just to surf the web. So in this day and age, it's an issue that will impact millions of Americans.
For Sarasota web designer Kyle Nickel, the internet is the great equalizer, a chance for small businesses to become big businesses, based solely on a good idea.
If you have a great product or a great service that you want to get in front of somebody and you do the right things on the internet, you can get discovered and become the next great company.
But now Nickel feels that opportunity could be threatened as the head of the Federal Communications Commission reveals a plan to roll back Obama-era net neutrality rules on equal access.
I'm totally against it because it's going to make it really, it's going to stifle small business growth.
It's a move that's facing stiff resistance, including from HBO's John Oliver, who's urging viewers to speak out. A call to action that could be responsible for a recent surge from 30,000 comments on the FCC's website to more than 1.6 million.
So what is net neutrality? It's a big word for a simple idea that internet service providers like Comcast, AT&T, and Verizon, which control your pipeline to the internet, cannot pick and choose favorites in terms of the content that you consume.
If that were to go away, Nickel uses the analogy of a highway. This would allow providers to set different speed limits for different drivers depending upon how much you're willing to pay, affecting those surfing the web as well as those who run internet-based companies. Critics argue it would give favoritism to larger companies with deeper pockets. Nickel's concern, 80% of his customers are small businesses.
It's going to make it really a lot harder for small businesses to start up and get discovered. So from my perspective, it's really it's bad for business.
But president of Sarasota's Republican Club, Rod Thompson, says it's not the government's place to interfere.
I think that the internet is maybe the greatest thing that's happened to free expression since the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And for the government to start in any way regulating that is a disastrously bad idea.
Internet service providers are privately owned companies, and Thompson says they should be treated as such.
Internet service providers are private entities that are providing it. So a better analogy is more like that of a Maserati manufacturer who would be required to make sure that his car doesn't go any faster than a Prius.
Researcher and instructor at the University of South Florida, Alyssa Klein, specializes in inequality and poverty. She says doing away with net neutrality won't just impact businesses, it will also impact individuals, especially those on the lower end of the economic scale.
When you're talking about differential pricing of a product that's become as important as internet access and access to specific things on the internet, it's not that hard to understand why those who have the least money would be the most seriously impacted by it.
The internet's not just home to funny YouTube videos, social media, or the answers to your strangest questions. It's also a tool that has become a necessity in the educational and professional world. To Klein's point, charging more for internet speed will make it harder for the lower class to access that crucial tool.
If, say, you need internet access to look for a job, any number of other things, as that becomes harder to come by, it makes it harder to do those things that could make you upwardly mobile.
Plus, Klein says it may play a larger role in rural areas where internet provider options are limited.
When we think of people with low socioeconomic status too, often people jump right to cities. But really, if in this particular case, we should also think about the rural poor because they have even fewer choices in internet service providers.
It's an issue that crosses party lines and affects nearly every single American. For now, the question is what rules, if any, will govern the tool we've come to rely on.
The FCC just opened a 3-month window for public comment.
Kate, thank you. Coming up, an incredible panel will break it down. A proponent of free markets, social justice, and a sociologist all join us on the trapezoid.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to save a life? Find out by donating platelets at Suncoast Blood Bank.
I'm Haley Wilgus, ABC7. Platelets aid in the clotting process and are vital in the treatment of cancer and surgical patients, trauma victims, and critically ill newborns. It's tough to keep enough on the shelves because they only last 5 days. To donate, call this number or visit scbb.org and you can help save a life.
ABC7 congratulates Suncoast Blood Bank on 65 years of serving our community.
Thanks to my volunteer, I am a better eater.
Thanks to my volunteer, math seems simple now.
Thanks to my volunteer, I discovered new career goals.
I'm a volunteer for Sarasota County Schools, so I know I can make a difference. And you can too. Give an hour, change a life.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point away.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
Download ABC7's official Suncoast weather app onto all your devices so you can stay informed wherever you go. With our full-featured weather app, you get weather alerts, interactive radar maps, current conditions, 10-day forecasts, and weather video from ABC7, all at your fingertips. And it's free. The ABC7 official Suncoast weather app, sponsored by 1 Hour Air. Just search Suncoast WX in the App Store and download yours today.
Net neutrality can seem confusing, so let's break it down once again. Net neutrality is the basic idea as an internet user you can get equal access to all content on the web. Essentially, internet providers shouldn't be allowed to limit what pages you can visit. On May 19th, the FCC began the process of repealing Title II, which gives the FCC legal oversight to enforce net neutrality. If this goes through, it would allow service providers to slow down the bandwidth to websites or even streaming services like Netflix. Providers argue a company like Netflix puts so much strain on their networks it is only fair or its viewers pay more. There are dozens of internet service providers fighting to end net neutrality. Comcast, as an example, according to the website opensecrets.org, in 2014, the company gave nearly $3 million to congressional candidates and provided talking points against net neutrality. The FCC is taking public comment on the matter. So far, nearly 3 million comments have been sent. However, nearly 500,000 of those were found to be posted by a bot or with a false name. Joining us for more on the issue is Reverend Russell Meyer, the Executive Director of the Florida Council of Churches, Rod Thompson, President of the Sarasota Republican Club, and Alyssa Klein, who is a doctoral candidate and teaching associate at the University of South Florida's Department of Sociology. Welcome to you all. And Rod, I want to start with you because you are a big free market guy. Yes, and you heard that web designer express concern in Kate's story that should this happen, it's small businesses that are going to get hurt.
Well, they weren't hurt before the net neutrality rules went into effect. Those are only a few years old. The internet was booming long before that. Small businesses, I work frequently with a guy that's been building websites since the late 90s, and he never noticed any change in anything up till then. I think what we have here is a system where essentially the internet is one of the last things that's not broken. The internet's working fabulously, and to suggest that the government needs to come in and fix something that's not broken is not a good idea.
I don't get it. If we do nothing now, we're not fixing or harming everything. But if we take away net neutrality, isn't that really changing the playing field?
Well, because I was not in favor of net neutrality in the first place. I don't think it was necessary. If you take Netflix, and if you take the idea that I think we'll discuss this evening about access for poor people, my guess is that most really poor people don't have Netflix. We don't have Netflix. So why shouldn't people who can afford Netflix pay a little bit more for the access to it? That only makes sense in a market sense.
Alyssa?
There is an argument there. There's also the argument that for a lot of people, Netflix is a relatively inexpensive luxury compared to cable or something like that. Also, if service providers are able to squeeze content providers like Netflix to have them pay more of the share of internet service, it's not just that there's the potential to bring down the cost of that internet service, but people will pay it in other ways.
Right. There was a description of net neutrality that I read today, and it says something like this. Net neutrality isn't really the internet. Unlike the open internet that has paved the way for so much innovation and given a platform to people who have historically been shut out, would be a closed down network where cable and phone companies call the shots and decide which websites, contents, or applications would succeed. I thought that the conservative point of view is government should not pick winners and losers.
No, absolutely it shouldn't. It shouldn't, which is why you shouldn't have the net neutrality involved, because that is the government trying to affect a private operating system. So you have the ISP providers out there, which are private companies. They should be allowed to offer their product and their service at a price that they deem is right for them. My guess is if you have some operating in this way, that if you allow the free market to operate, you're going to have others that will be able to offer at a whole different pricing schedule and structure in order to maximize their profits.
That's simply not the case. So one of the things that has changed over the last several years is the consolidation of media companies. So there's just a handful of companies now that really run most of the media. And what has happened along the way is telecommunications and information services have been blended. There used to be a firewall between the two of them that made the necessity of net neutrality not needed. But that has been completely blended, and so now content providers are also your telecommunication provider. The firewall no longer works. There needs to be a set of new standards to deal with how the industry has changed, so that if your only access to the internet is through a smartphone, which is the case for most poor people, they can actually get to any site, not be regulated.
All right, we are just getting started with this conversation, and we'll pick it right up after we check the weather.
ABC7 My Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch My Suncoast News wherever you are, on our live stream, on our newly redesigned mysuncoast.com, and a brand new ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, and dining with recipes and all the hottest Suncoast restaurants. Visit mysuncoast.com and click on the mobile tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for iOS and Android. If you want 24/7 access to ABC7's breaking news stories, weather forecasts, traffic alerts, health reports, Suncoast View, and more ABC7 programming, now there's good news. Introducing the free ABC7 channel on Amazon Fire TV, your 24/7 access to ABC7. Just search ABC7 on the streaming device and download the free ABC7 channel app. Or if you don't have an Amazon Fire TV, you can get one at Amazon.com. We asked you, Suncoast, why do you like ABC7?
I like ABC7 because it's local. It gives me all the local news.
The local news, local weather.
It's so local and so community driven.
Kelly Wilgus does a great job.
John Scalzi, that's my guy.
Bob Harrigan is wonderful.
Stephanie's my favorite. I like Scott Dennis.
I like them all.
We're all very grateful that you cover what you do and you're here to participate with the community.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Just go do it. Go do it.
If you're not in control, then who is? Live above the influence.
Our discussion on net neutrality continues in a moment, but right now let's get a check on our forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Thanks, Alan. I'll tell you, we are watching some showers and storms starting to kick up. This could be a sign of things to come. Looks like our chances for rain will stay fairly high, too, for the next 7 days as a result of plenty of moisture in the atmosphere. On top of that, we have a little sea breeze developing. The high pressure is situated off the east coast of Florida. All these factors come together with convergence, mainly in the interior counties, but need rainfall there too. And boy, we've had our fair share just over the past couple of days, nearly 5 inches of rainfall in some areas in Hardee and DeSoto County. Still a lot of rain into Highlands County. Now, a few showers near the coast, but not much. There's a chance, a 20% chance for a few scattered showers right near the coastline through the next couple of hours as a result of the outflow from some of the storms that were around earlier. I mentioned the rainfall totals. You can see it up to 2 inches already into Highlands County near Sebring, 1.5 inches into Hardee County and DeSoto County as well. Lots of moisture, lots of disturbances around too, traveling across from west to east right over Florida. And so that will enhance the shower and thunderstorm activity too over the upcoming days. Sarasota right now 86, 87 in Bradenton, 84 in Venice. And the high today was a hot one, 90 degrees, a couple degrees above average, but the humidity is still very high and made it feel a little bit warmer this afternoon. The heat index up into the 100-degree range. Scattered showers tomorrow afternoon. We are looking for that activity once again, especially inland, and then pushing toward the coast late in the evening. Now, here's a look at what's happening tonight. I mentioned a few showers are still possible, but not a lot of rainfall for coastal areas. And then tomorrow morning, a chance for a shower or two in the late morning, but then most of it inland, pushing back toward the coast late in the night. So that's the pattern we're seeing set up right now, with a better chance for showers and storms moving into the weather picture over the upcoming days. Looks like the interior, though, are going to be favored for that heavier rain total. Now, as far as the boating forecast goes, looks good. Seas running right around 2 feet with a light chop out there. Water temperature 86 degrees. Yes, hurricane season expected to start tomorrow. Hurricanes need water temperature above 80 to develop, and we've already got that here. Look at that rain chance. Looks like a summer 7-day forecast. Alan will be right back with the guests right after this. Stick around.
This is a special health alert for seniors suffering with joint pain. If you have Medicare insurance, you may qualify for high-quality support braces at little or no cost.
I'm thrilled with my knee braces.
Now, there is a simple and proven solution for seniors to get out of pain with state-of-the-art support braces.
I barely feel any pain at all.
Braces for your knees and back, as well as your shoulders and ankles, too.
I'm so happy with the quality of these braces.
Call now, and you could qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
I can play ball again, and it doesn't hurt.
And because of my Medicare coverage, it costs me next to nothing.
So call now.
And because I have this red, white, and blue Medicare card, my braces have cost me just about nothing.
It's true. You may get a knee, back, shoulder, and ankle brace at little or no cost.
They qualified me for 2 knee braces and a back brace.
If you have knee or back pain, give them a call. They can help.
1-800-476-8967. 1-800-476-8967.
This is a time-sensitive message from the Back Pain Relief Hotline. Millions of people across the nation are suffering from back pain. Are you? Are you on Medicare? Is it hard to walk, to bend over, or even do simple things? Well, here's great news. If on Medicare, you or a loved one could qualify to receive a pain-relieving, comfortable back brace at little or no cost to you. You'll receive free information, free delivery, and all the Medicare paperwork is handled for free by our accredited suppliers. Best of all, there is little or no cost to you for the back back brace. Just call right now to get the details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly consultants are standing by. Imagine getting out there again, doing all of the things you love to do without back pain. These amazing back braces have helped thousands of people with severe back pain, and you could be eligible to have yours delivered free at little or no cost to you. Our friendly consultants are standing by 24/7 to take your call.
Call 855-388-6551.
You might feel like there's too many problems in the world, or that, you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team.
Just that simple act is transforming someone else's life.
It's one of the best feelings in the world.
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are discussing net neutrality. The FCC voted to repeal Title II, which allows it to enforce neutrality rules for internet service providers. Our guests tonight are Reverend Russell Meyer of the Florida Council of Churches, Rod Thompson of the Sarasota Republican Club, and Alyssa Klein, a doctoral candidate and teaching associate at USF's Department of Sociology. Rod, I want to get your take on this, because right now the current rules say that broadband providers cannot block lawful content, applications, and services or non-harmful devices. We said at the outset that at least some providers give a lot of money to congressional candidates. Could you see a situation where an internet provider may not want to have content on the website from organizations that disagree with their aims in business?
I absolutely could see that. I can see where there could be corruption involved in Congress there. I think we see there's an awful lot of industries where that very problem and dynamic exists. However, you can take a private company like Facebook, which is a massive information provider. A lot of people get a surprising amount of their news through Facebook. And Facebook can choose whatever it wants to block or not block, and it actually does so because it's a private company, and the federal government does not have a role or responsibility in ensuring that they allow everything to come out.
In fact, we saw that recently, Alyssa. There was a situation where somebody basically FaceTimed themselves murdering somebody, and Facebook came under a great amount of criticism for allowing that content to be on Facebook. Facebook took it down, but you could see the problem there. Maybe Facebook did the responsible thing, but maybe not all companies would.
There are a few differences there, because that's content on their own site. It's a little different than an internet service provider blocking your access to content somewhere else. So because it's within their site, it's a little different in a legal context. But they've had issues before. They were part of an experiment where they put sadder stories on people's news feeds and found out if it actually affected their mood, and they found out it did. And they did that without really informing people. So those manipulations do matter, but I would say there is a difference between Facebook doing it within their own site and a service provider blocking or changing your access to content on other sites.
Now, another big component that people are concerned about is the issue of social justice. And again, part of the information about what's going on here is this. The open internet allows people of color to tell their own stories and organize for racial and social justice. When activists are able to turn out thousands of people in the streets at a moment's notice, it's because ISPs aren't allowed to block their messages or their websites. Reverend Meyer, I mean, a lot of the issues that you're involved with depend on basically people basically learning, crowdsourcing, and getting information. Could you envision a situation where an internet service provider may not, want your organization to be able to organize and get people out on the streets?
Well, absolutely, and they wouldn't necessarily do it by saying we don't like that political activity. They do it based, if we're using a market analysis tool, what generates revenue. And so if there's activity that doesn't generate revenue for their business model, then they're going to block that, and they're going to favor activity that does do that. We see that already happening in the media industry in all kinds of ways. That's what part of the fear of the consolidation of journalism media has been all about. And so when we say free market, we have to understand that comes with a pinch on other forms of speech and activity. There's a preference being made to economic gain over other kinds of social value and social relationships. And we need to have a larger conversation in this country about what we consider really the more bedrock kinds of values in our society. One of the difficulties with always referring back to the free market is it's preferencing economic relationships, saying over your love for your family or your love for the well-being in your community in other kinds of ways. And so when you have a methodology that says we're going to allow an economic metric to be the determinant for how and what content is delivered, all kinds of non-economic content's going to be cut out.
Rod, I saw you shaking your head.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I agree totally with the Reverend that is an excellent conversation to have. We have a lot of companies that have a lot of social justice content, and they take their good corporate citizenship, seriously. What I don't think, though, is we have a place for the government to come in and mandate what is good corporate citizenship, what is social justice and what isn't, and force companies to operate. So I would totally agree about having that conversation. I would choose to support, not support. So for instance, I don't shop at Target because I don't like a lot of what they do and they support. That's one way the free market can actually operate there. You see consistently, you see protests against companies and retail stores and others because of what they do and don't do that people consider right and wrong. I think that is the way to go about it as opposed to the government mandating laws.
Listen, let me ask you this because you study these things. What impact do you think this would have long term? I'm thinking about over the last couple of months after the election when you had the Women's March. A lot of that was organized both locally and in Washington by people reading about it on the internet. Are you concerned that the way these kinds of protests or organized may change if internet providers may limit organizations from, basically putting out the invitation?
Absolutely, that is one of the fears. You mentioned media consolidation, and that is definitely part of the problem. But even further than media consolidation is how much media companies are increasingly part of larger conglomerates that have complicated economic interests, and they could, there remains the possibility with the loss of net neutrality that they could block information about protests or other political activities, or even potentially that if there's a news outlet that gives them or one of their subsidiaries unfavorable coverage, they could make it harder to access content from that news source. We already have people complaining about niche news. This would drive us further in that direction.
Rod, you are also a former journalist.
Right. So if you take Sarasota here, this has been a one newspaper town for something like 40 years now. And you can see in the coverage, say, of when you have pro-life protests where they had the hands chained that had thousands of people, that got a photo often on page 3B, whereas a protest that's on a different issue that has 10 people might get a page 1. That's totally the Sarasota Herald Tribune's prerogative to do that. I think that's unfair. I think that they were blocking coverage. I think they were doing, in principle, exactly what Elisa is talking about here through their newspaper, but they should be free to do that from government interference.
Well, I disagree.
I'll give you the last word.
Because, when the Green Revolution was ongoing in Iran, it was driven by Twitter, and then the government shut down Twitter to stop the Green Revolution. We all howled about that. But the argument that's being made right now is if Comcast wanted to do the same thing that the Iranian government should do, we should allow that to happen because that's free market. I'm going to argue, no, that's just wrong behavior. Anything that would cut down democratic participation, we should block that.
All right, we have to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus what some of our viewers are saying about last night's topic, the decline in black voter turnout. Stay with us.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my
my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-628-1251. 800-628-1251.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Enjoy some of the best Suncoast restaurants on me. Just go to mysuncoast.com/dining, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already, and you can win a $50 gift card to a restaurant in our area. We'll pick a winner each week, so go on our website and sign up now.
The chairman of the FCC says net neutrality's days are numbered. If the agency repeals Title II, there will be no regulations in place to enforce equal access to the internet. It is less regulation a good thing? And if you support net neutrality, what can you do to protect it? Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Alyssa, I'm interested in your take because you study these things. What do you want our viewers to walk away with tonight?
There are a lot of different possibilities depending on what internet service providers decide to do with these new freedoms that they have. But the old adage that you have to have money to make money really does hold true. We see this in all kinds of research for individuals as well as for businesses. The fewer resources you have, the fewer opportunities you have for upward mobility. The internet historically has been, as long as we've had it, has been a force that has leveled the playing field a little at least. So as the net becomes even less neutral, that is just going to reinforce inequalities we already have.
Does Alyssa have a point?
Potentially. What I think, but I mean, I think
that's a victory.
I think, my takeaway though is that if you look at this, and I don't think everyone's going to like this formulation, but if you look at this as a risk-reward situation, the risk or the reward is that you have more equal access for everybody to the internet. The risk, however, is that you have an increasingly encroaching government on the internet. And my great fear is that that camel's nose under the tent flap not only brings in the rest of the camel, but a whole army of camels called regulators, in which the government ultimately ends up regulating content, what we fear Comcast would do, the government would.
Reverend, you get the last word.
Well, the government's not the boogie person here, and it's time we stop thinking about that way. What we need is smart government, not no government. I can take you to Somalia. I'll show you what no government looks like. And so what made this nation great was FDR and the TVA and rural electrification and making certain the telephone went to every farmhouse. We have not done that with broadband. We made it almost impossible for people in rural areas and in urban depressed areas to get access to the internet. I had to drive to Groveland yesterday. My phone didn't leave once I left once I left Tampa Bay. Only when it came back, then it started like dancing all over the place. We've really failed most of America in making certain that we deliver the internet everywhere. Now what we're saying is we're going to let the few content providers determine what content people get. This is a recipe for disaster.
We have to leave it there. Thank you very much. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about last night's topic, the lower turnout of black voters in the 2016 election. According to a report from Pew Research, the percentage of African Americans who voted in the presidential election was less than 60%, down nearly 7% from 2012, while the number of American voters in every other demographic increase, while some attribute it to the Democratic Party assuming black voters would support it, to Barack Obama not being on the ballot. We wanted you to know what you thought about this. And Billy Brooks Jr. writes, you had two of the worst candidates ever to win the two-party system, both corrupt, driven by ego and amassing wealth. Two candidates who said anything and everything to win votes. The black community just wasn't falling for the pandering and the promises. Yvette Marie writes, voter suppression. And Kenneth Lamars writes, my guess is because Hillary was projected to win by the polls, plain and simple. Well, what do you think about net neutrality? Should it come to an end, or should access to the internet remain unimpeded? Join the conversation by visiting our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to our guests for being here. Reverend Russell Meyer is the Executive Director of the Florida Council of Churches. Rod Thompson is the President of the Sarasota Republican Club. And Alyssa Klein is a doctoral candidate and teaching associate at the University of South Florida's Department of Sociology. When we return, we'll have a final look at your weather, plus begging police to shoot him. A man is under arrest in Orlando tonight following an hours-long standoff at the airport. We'll have details in our primetime headlines.
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday. And I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her so I could call and thank them. And she's doing fine. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast. Life Alert saves a person from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Life Alert is a lifesaver. If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-962-4112. That's 1-800-962-4112. Call now, 1-800-962-4112. For a free brochure, call 1-800-962-4112.
For more than 100 years, American Humane Association has been teaching kids to be kind to animals. Those in our homes, on the farms, on the silver screen, and wildlife conservation, caring for the world's vanishing creatures. But we can't do it alone. Visit kindness100.org to find ways to teach kids how they can make a more caring, compassionate, and humane world for all of us.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, along the beaches, it's been pretty quiet and very dry, but inland areas, we've had a severe thunderstorm warning earlier this evening into Hardy and DeSoto, and as well as into Highlands counties, but not much going on near the coast, and it looks like that may be the trend again tomorrow, although there's a little bit better chance. Each day, the showers from the outflow boundaries are getting a little bit closer to the coast each and every day, and I think it'll happen again tomorrow. A little bit closer once again. Showers and thunderstorms really breaking out along the spine of the peninsula of Florida today. Direct result of an abundance of moisture. We have high pressure east of the state providing us with a southeasterly wind flow. On top of that, a little west coast sea breeze developing. Two factors coming into play there. On top of that, temperatures soaring into the low 90s, just enough heat to create that lift. And it's been pretty active today. It's starting to wind down into central Florida. And a few showers still lingering into Manatee County, but not much. We had some showers earlier that were around, and those are kind of fading away. Gives you an idea as to what's going to happen this evening. Just one or two lone showers are possible. We have a lot of disturbances downwind, and it looks like we will see this moving in our general direction, I should say, and we'll see scattered showers and storms in the forecast for the next 7 days. So the radar will be showing some thunderstorm activity, I think, right on in through midweek next week. Sarasota right now, 86. It's 84 in Venice, 87 in Bradenton. So warm and a muggy night right now. 90 degrees. Currently the high today, 88 with the low. I should say 88 is the normal. The low this morning was 74, and that's well above the average of around 70 degrees. Forecast tomorrow calling for temperatures to warm into the upper 80s. And then showers and storms once again breaking out in interior portions of our viewing area, spreading toward the coast late in the day. And as far as the National Satellite and Radar Imagery shows you, a system right here over Arizona and into New Mexico, as well as into Colorado and Utah, spinning around. This will eventually move to the east and also enhance our storms over the weekend. So a pretty good chance for some showers and storms, maybe near the coast too, I think, as we move into Saturday and Sunday. But typically tomorrow, we're going to see those scattered, mainly inland storms spread toward the coast late in the day. Similar conditions for Friday, but as I mentioned, Saturday and Sunday may be a little bit different. Winds out of the southeast, turning to the southwest for boaters. A light chop out there in the bays and inland waters. The water temperature, 86 degrees, really starting to warm up like bath water now. UV index will 9 tomorrow. Tides upcoming, low tide 144 and a high at 8:35 tomorrow morning. The forecast tonight, a few scattered storms are possible, 74 for a low. Tomorrow, it looks pretty much like we saw today. Good chance for inland storms. That continues. I mentioned a little bit better chance for some coastal showers on Saturday and Sunday. Al will be back with primetime headlines right after this. Stick around.
I was addicted to heroin and crack.
My choice was alcohol.
I used anything that I could get my hands on.
You know me. I'm the Addiction Network. Over 1.5 million people have called for help. So why haven't you called? What are you waiting for? The Addiction Network is here to take your call 24 hours a day.
I lost everything, and the only way to get my life back was to pick up the phone and call and go to treatment.
Call 800-424-2819.
I believe that home is where your pet is.
And that loving an animal means never giving up on them, never letting them go.
I believe that when you spay or neuter your pets, you help decrease the number of homeless animals.
Because every dog and cat deserves a place to call home.
I believe that I found my best friend at a shelter. And you can too.
We believe that together with Best Friends Animal Society,
we can bring about a time when there are no more homeless pets.
Visit ambassadors.bestfriends.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
We're losing exotic animals on a daily basis, and the ones that we have in captivity are really the ambassadors for their wild counterparts. I'm Clayton Rozier from the Big Cat Habitat and Gulf Coast Sanctuary, housing over 150 exotic animals that needed a great home. And if you love animals, please help them. Do it locally. Support your local no-kill shelters, your local wild animal sanctuaries. Make a difference where you can.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Now for your primetime headlines, and we begin in Afghanistan, where at least 100 people are dead and more than 400 wounded, including 11 U.S. citizens. The blast happened in the diplomatic area of Afghanistan's capital. ABC's Molly Hunter has the story.
The deadliest attack in the Afghan capital in years, during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and during the heart of rush hour traffic. Here, this is the moment the massive car bomb explodes, captured by an office camera, striking in one of the most secure, most heavily fortified neighborhoods in Kabul, right near the British and German embassies, just a mile from the U.S. Embassy. The death toll, more than 80 people and nearly 400 others wounded. There are people inside this car. He says they're still alive, but the car door is stuck and we can't get them out. Medical teams on the scene, but not enough. The injured being taken away in any available vehicles. He says, I heard a terrible sound. When I opened my eyes, there was blood coming out of my shoulder. And the U.S. Embassy condemning the attack. The death toll sure to rise, the agony of a city that has suffered so much.
Now, neither ISIS nor the Taliban have claimed responsibility yet. Surprisingly, though, the Taliban immediately condemned the attack. But who's behind today's carnage, we still don't know. In London, Molly Hunter, ABC News.
The Pentagon says for the first time ever, the U.S. military successfully intercepted an intercontinental ballistic missile. The mock warhead was fired from an island in the Pacific. The interceptor was launched from an Air Force base in California. Within an hour, the 5-foot-long interceptor hit the target. A former Marine fighter pilot says these rockets travel so fast and so far that taking one out is truly rocket science.
When a rocket takes off through the atmosphere, it can use fins to steer, just like an airplane would use fins to steer. But when it gets into outer space, there's no air. And so now it has to use thruster rockets.
While North Korea did just test another ballistic missile yesterday, the U.S. says this intercept test was years in the making. A Pennsylvania man staying at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C. is under arrest tonight. Police say guns were found inside the car of 43-year-old Brian Moles. Early Wednesday morning, someone saw one of the guns in plain sight and alerted police. Police would not say why Moles was in Washington or his intentions. The Trump Hotel is 5 blocks from the White House. Here in Florida, a man is in custody after bringing a fake gun into Orlando International Airport. Officers only realized it was not real after apprehending the suspect. Michael Wayne Pettigrew was arrested after a lengthy standoff. The police chief says Pettigrew was a former member of the military and is undergoing a mental evaluation.
The subject made several comments, pointed the firearm at the officers, said, shoot me, actually pointed the gun at his head, imploring the officers to shoot him.
Pettigrew is being held on charges of aggravated assault for pointing a simulated firearm at officers. No one was hurt in the incident. An update on the Zika virus. The state surgeon general says 7 babies have been born in Florida with birth defects linked to the virus. No word where the babies live or whether their mothers contracted Zika locally or while traveling. Florida's Department of Health reported 43 Zika cases involving pregnant women so far this year. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control says 64 babies have been born nationwide with Zika-related birth defects. Decision time is here for Florida Governor Rick Scott. Today, the legislature formally delivering the proposed state budget to his desk. Scott has 15 days to sign or veto the bill. He could also just veto individual spending items. For a week, Scott has hinted he could veto the $82.4 billion budget because of cuts to the state's economic development and tourism marketing agencies. Vetoing the budget or certain parts of it could trigger a special session. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night, and remember to join us for our Surviving a Hurricane special tomorrow at 7.